I am excited to get started with today's webinar, Teamwork and Collaboration. Working effectively with others is one of the most important skills you can have in your back pocket. Not only will this be fundamental in school as you progress through the years, but it is highly sought after by employers. And today we're going to be going over some of the challenges that you might face when working with others, how you can do so effectively, and why teams are so important overall. Today, we are joined by three of my colleagues from our Learning Services team, Ariel Filan, Jenna Gilio, and Sarah Snyder. So without further ado, I will pass it on over to them.
Thank you, Maxine, and welcome everyone to this webinar on collaboration and teamwork. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jenna.
And I'm Ariel.
We are excited to explore with you how teamwork shapes success in both school and the workplace.
Like Maxine mentioned, this is our fourth webinar in our Student Success series. If you missed any of the previous webinars, you can check them out on our YouTube channel. That channel is packed with resources for a whole variety of topics.
No matter where you're headed, whether it's college, work, or beyond, teamwork is a skill that you will need. You're at such an advantage to build this skill in school when you're surrounded by support, whether it's instructors, counselors, and other resources. So let's learn how to build this skill before you get to that next stage that you're aiming for.
Today, we're going to look at common objections to teamwork, the top workplace skills, and the benefits of teamwork.
We will also look at qualities of a good team, effective team strategies, including brainstorming, and what you can do to overcome common challenges.
By the time we're done, you should have renewed enthusiasm for joining group projects because you'll know why they're important, what they'll do for you long term, and how you can overcome some of those roadblocks you're bound to face at some point in a group project. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's jump in.
Let's start with some common objections to teamwork. You've probably thought or even said at least one of these things before. I can produce faster and better work alone because I'm the only one who does the work. Or working with a team is more frustrating than it's worth. What's the point? Or teamwork is too slow and cumbersome to be worth the effort.
Maybe it's because your team works remotely and you're all in different time zones. Or so-and-so always takes the lead and leads us in the wrong direction. Jenna, do any of these sound familiar to you?
Totally. These frustrations are real, and I've encountered a few of these personally, but the benefits of teamwork and collaboration often outweigh them. So let's take a closer look at what employers today are seeking. Among the top 5 skills employers seek in a future employee and that play a role in predicting an employee's future success, we see leadership, critical thinking and problem solving, reliability and organization, oral and written communication skills, and teamwork and collaboration.
That's so true, Jenna. They want employees who are already skilled at working together, participating effectively in a team, collaborating effectively with other people from diverse backgrounds, considering new perspectives, and contributing to a community. Employers aren't looking for islands. Sarah, why would an employer want someone who is already skilled in teamwork?
That's a good question. Why is teamwork so important? Well, in part, teamwork matters because collaboration promotes diversity.
Teamwork encourages engagement with people from unique backgrounds. When you're placed in a group for a school project, you might only have the fact that you're taking this class at the same time in common with your teammates. Successful teamwork requires acknowledgement of differences between team members and respect for others regardless of similarities or differences. Without that component, a team is not going to be successful or a pleasant experience.
Fostering these diverse teams in a school setting also promotes preparation for the workplace.
Great point, Ariel. As we saw earlier, employers are looking for team players. Why? Well, because a lot of what you're going to do in the workplace is team focused. You're all working toward the same goals, whether those are sales goals or growth goals or profit margin goals, quality goals, any other company target.
And roles exist in a company because they're needed to collaboratively accomplish company objectives. Practicing teamwork and learning how to collaborate, navigating leadership, resolving conflict, and building off a common vision while you're in school can uniquely qualify you for entry into a competitive workplace.
I'm all for diversity and workplace preparation, but what if your group struggles with sharing or even coming up with those diverse ideas? What steps can a team take to foster that creativity and diversity?
That's a great question, Sarah. One thing our team does to get everyone sharing ideas is to have a brainstorming session. Brainstorming is a key teamwork skill. Here are some tips to doing it well and getting the results that you need. First, a brainstorming session should have a set time limit. It doesn't have to be very long. 7 to 15 minutes can accomplish a lot.
I've found that a good brainstorming session often uses visual aids as well. Having someone responsible for recording ideas, but doing so in a way that everyone can see it. A shared screen, a whiteboard, a large sheet of paper can all serve that need and may even spark some creativity within the group.
Yes, and this creativity can spark some wild ideas. Remember during a brainstorming session to be respectful and encourage all ideas, even the crazy ones. Sometimes that crazy idea can spark a new one that eventually leads to the perfect solution. So encourage that out of the box thinking.
That reminds me of a brainstorming session I had where we just wanted to write as many ideas down as we could think of. The goal of a brainstorming session is to go for quantity. How many ideas can your team generate in the allotted time? We ended that session with more than 30 different ideas.
That's right. You want to go for quantity, but also stay focused on one challenge or topic at a time. Make sure you're brainstorming solutions for one problem, and if another problem comes up, jot it down or come back to it later. Stick to the topic at hand, and when sharing out, so the session stays on track.
And it's really important to defer judgment until the appropriate time. If someone says, we can't do that, every time someone thinks out of the box, then people will stop sharing ideas, and the best ideas might get left off the list. Brainstorming sessions, again, are about generating quantity, not for judging quality. That time will come later.
And that time is after the brainstorming session has been completed. Give everyone a few minutes to read over the resulting ideas and then start weeding through them. This is the time to judge each idea. Is it practical? Is it achievable? Is it manageable? Is it ethical? Does it help us accomplish our goal as a team?
This is where you narrow the options until you have something you can act on. But don't judge until after the brainstorming session is over. Now that you have some practical steps to promote diversity, how does this prepare you for the workplace? Sarah, you have some experience in this arena. Can you share some of those experiences with us?
I would love to. One of my responsibilities on my team here is conducting interviews for new open positions. One of the questions we ask in every interview is to tell us about a time when you were on a team or collaborated with a team.
I remember when you asked that question when I was interviewing here, Sarah. I've been asked similar questions elsewhere too.
It's pretty common to be asked about team experiences. Our version of the question is broad and a little vague on purpose. We want to give applicants free rein to answer that question however they see fit.
How do they tend to do answering that question?
Well, you might be surprised just how many people struggle to answer that question. We recently interviewed 11 people for a new opening on our team. Of those 11 people, only one person even remotely answered the question well. That applicant shared a little about the process of working as a team and a little bit about the strategies that they employed.
That seems like a good start.
It was something, but it still left a lot to be desired as it wasn't very thorough. However, it was a lot better than the other 10. What they shared could all be boiled down to essentially saying, yeah, I was on a team once,
Wow, that's rough. I can't believe that's all they had to say.
right? You can maybe see now how I can tell you with certainty from the employer perspective that you will stand out among the competition if you can answer that question well. But to answer it well, you first need experience.
You may find yourself doubting that the workplace really is all about teamwork. But remember the brainstorming tips we just shared a moment ago? These were all from real life work experiences. So let me tell you a little bit about our team here. Every 6 to 12 months, our team gathers for several days of uninterrupted reflection, brainstorming, and planning. We spend hours upon hours together, employing all manners of teamwork and brainstorming strategies to help set us up for success over the coming months.
But it doesn't stop there. Once we've set our goals, we break into teams that can work together, sometimes for a whole year, designing and implementing the solutions we decided on. Those groups bring together people with different personal and professional backgrounds to accomplish common objectives. Now let's go back to the list of things collaboration and teamwork promote. We see that teamwork also promotes core success skills.
What are core success skills?
These are things like communication, critical thinking, creativity, innovation, time management, self-awareness, self-discipline. These skills are important for success in life and in the workplace, and teamwork gives a lot of opportunities to grow and develop these skills to better prepare you for entry into a competitive workplace and to better prepare you for successful relationships inside or outside of the workplace.
Successfully working with other people on a team is a skill that requires the same level of practice as any other skill. Practice now so you're the desirable candidate who is already good at it. And when you're asked about it in an interview, you'll have an experience to talk about. The role you played, what went well, what challenges you faced, and how you overcame them.
But the benefits to teamwork and collaboration don't stop here. Let's check out some more specific benefits that come from working in a team. First up, teamwork encourages healthy relationship building because you'll invariably be grouped with people who are not exactly like you. Healthy relationships are vital to the success of a group. So, learning to build relationships with those who are different from you will help make your group more successful.
Teamwork also grows confidence and self-esteem. Seeing yourself as part of the greater team, having your contributions considered, and taking part in the success of the group can make you a more confident student, employee, and person in general.
And teamwork gives you a great opportunity to learn from others. By hearing varied perspectives, experiences, and knowledge about a topic, you have the chance to develop your own views and knowledge with that input.
We can distill those down to say that teamwork can grow your critical thinking skills as you problem solve with others, your communication skills as you navigate each aspect of a project and communicate with diverse team members, your leadership skills as you take on or experience leadership in a group project setting, and your reliability as you are required to be accountable to people other than your instructor, help set group deadlines, and experience repercussions of missed deadlines by yourself or others.
These look familiar. Where have we seen these things together before?
Right here. They're among the top 5 skills that employers value. You can knock out all 5 of these skills with some practice, working on teams, and collaborating with others to accomplish things. Teamwork checks all the boxes. So, really, experience working with teams can make you all around more desirable to prospective employers.
This all sounds great, but I'm still wondering, how do we do this? What does a good team look like? And how do we make this teamwork thing really work effectively?
Let's start with the look at what a good team is. A good team is a team that knows why it exists. A team needs a common goal, an objective, a project, some kind of desired outcome that all the members can get behind. A good team has a clear purpose and strong communication around that purpose. Establishing these early can lead to success.
To guide the team in achieving its purpose, every team should set ground rules for group behavior and establish effective means of communication. When communicating, use everything at your disposal, from email to texting to shared documents. Each method of communication has its own purpose, and there's nothing worse than working with a team member who never responds to the group text, or when you're also using a Google Doc to collaborate and you find out that one of your team members has been working on the wrong document somewhere else. So, talk through how each will be used within the context of your team's purpose.
For example, the purpose of a study group could be: we are a group of students coming together to support and learn from one another so we can pass this difficult course.
Or the purpose of a group project could be, we're a group of students designing a robot who can perform basic math functions for the final project of this class.
And we can see this in the workplace, where the purpose of a group might be that we are a group of coworkers addressing the challenge of client retention. In the workplace, you will find more formal teamwork situations.
Exactly. These are all great examples of clearly stating why a group has been assembled.
Our second hallmark of a good team is equal contribution. Teamwork is about dividing tasks so everyone's strengths are leveraged and the group achieves more together than any individual could alone.
So, for example, if one person is organized, they might track deadlines. If another is a great communicator, they might take the lead on coordinating discussion. Matching roles to strengths makes the whole team stronger.
That's a great point. All three of us have seen this in action when our team divvies up responsibilities based on skills. For example, even in the creation of this webinar, Sarah, our planner and organizer, coordinated our meetings, and Jenna took the reins on the visual aspect because she is our designer. Having proper roles made all the difference in meeting our goals.
And Ariel was the brains behind the format. We all played to our strengths, but even beyond roles, clear task assignments were essential. Whether tasks were volunteered or assigned, everyone knew what was expected of them between now and the next project check-in. We knew what to do and when it was due.
Another trait of a good team is creating space for learning. Everyone brings different knowledge and experiences to the table, so make room for sharing and growth.
In a school setting, this could mean helping a teammate who's struggling with the material or collaborating on problem solving strategies. And respect is key. Acknowledge that everyone learns at their own pace.
And remember, learning isn't just academic. It's also about understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses to work more effectively together.
This also applies in the workplace. I've seen teams build trust and perform better when they're patient and kind during challenges. I once worked on a team where our team was tasked with designing a new user dashboard. One of our team members, Ria, was struggling to keep up with the pace of the group. While the rest of us were making rapid progress, Ria was coming along a little bit slower due to her need to adjust to some of the new software we were using.
Ooh, that must have been frustrating for everyone involved.
It was at first. We had deadlines to meet, and it was easy to get frustrated. But instead of pushing Ria to rush, we made a conscious decision for the rest of us to slow down and offer her more support. I spent some extra time explaining the software to her, and a couple of other team members did the same.
I bet that patience really paid off, didn't it?
Yes, by the end of the project, not only had Ria caught up, but she also contributed one of the most innovative ideas for the dashboard. That moment taught me that patience isn't just about giving someone time, it's about giving them the right support when they need it. As a result, our final product was better than anything we would have come up with individually.
Now, you might understand someone needing extra support, but you're probably wondering what to do when someone isn't pulling their weight and it's not just a lack of support. Do we have strategies to handle that?
We sure do. Start by ensuring quality communication. Make sure everyone knows their tasks and deadlines. Use project management tools like Trello or Asana to keep things organized and transparent.
Mini deadlines can also help. Instead of just one big due date, break the project into smaller steps with clear deadlines for each piece. This helps procrastinators stay on track.
If all else fails, document what you've tried and escalate to your instructor or team lead. Don't wait until it's too late to address the issue.
And if necessary, be ready to pick up the slack. It's not ideal, but sometimes teamwork means sacrificing for the group's success.
I've experienced this myself, and while it is frustrating, it did teach me resilience and adaptability. Sometimes teamwork means stepping up when others aren't willing to pull their weight. I remember a group project during college where our team was tasked with creating a detailed research report for a major presentation.
That sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it definitely was. And as the deadline approached, I noticed that two of my teammates weren't submitting their parts of the report. I kept reminding them, but nothing changed. The team's success really felt like it was on me at that point, and I knew I had to do something.
So what did you do?
Well, I ended up taking on their sections as well. I didn't want to let the group down, and I figured if I could finish everything, it would still be a successful project for all of us. It wasn't easy. I had to work late nights, and it was exhausting. But in the end, the report came together, and we were able to present it on time.
That's a great example of stepping up and taking responsibility. Ultimately, teamwork is about accountability, and sometimes doing the hard work yourself is the best way to ensure success. But it also sets a standard for accountability in the team.
And coming off of that, a good team also thrives on trust and respect. Without these, conflict becomes destructive and collaboration breaks down. So, how do we build that trust and respect?
I think it starts with shared agreements. What behaviors are acceptable, how you'll treat one another, and how you'll approach your roles. This helps to create a safe space where everyone feels valued and heard.
And it's not just about what you agree on, it's about how you communicate. Meetings, for example, should have a clear agenda and a set time limit. No one likes meetings that feel like a waste of time.
Absolutely. Use your meetings wisely. Focus on collaboration, like decision making or brainstorming or rehearsing your presentation. And avoid meetings just to do updates that could have been shared in an email.
Another thing to remember is that not everyone may need to attend every meeting. So be respectful of your teammates' time by inviting only those who are necessary for the discussion at hand.
Something that can threaten trust and respect is conflict, especially handled poorly. Can we just avoid conflict?
Avoiding conflict in a team is a quick way to bring it to its knees. It's important to know that a good team doesn't avoid conflict or magically not have any. Conflict is a when, not an if. So instead of avoiding conflict, a good team handles conflict constructively. In fact, conflict can be a sign that people care and are engaged.
The key is healthy conflict, where team members challenge ideas respectfully, listen to each other, and stay focused on solutions rather than personal grievances. They remain factual and honest. They don't judge or exaggerate what others say. They give the benefit of the doubt, and they keep their emotions in check.
Right. Conflict can actually strengthen a team when handled well. I remember a project where I disagreed strongly with a teammate, but our debate led to a better solution. Earlier, we talked about brainstorming and not judging ideas during that process. But at some point, you do have to start evaluating them and talking through their pros and cons. A colleague and I were evaluating one such outcome of a brainstorm, and we both had strong opinions in opposition to one another.
Oh, how did you work through that?
Well, because we had trust and respect for one another, we were able to have a healthy discussion about our opinions instead of getting personal or offended. In the end, we actually found a third solution, a compromise between the two we had felt so strongly about. And that worked out beautifully.
That's a great example, Ariel. Conflict is inevitable, but when there's trust and respect, it becomes an opportunity for growth rather than division. Our last component of every successful team is that it has a strong leader. But leadership doesn't always mean being the loudest voice in the room or even having a title. Sometimes leadership is just about stepping up when no one else will.
Exactly. Even if you're not officially assigned the role of leader, there's always an opportunity for you to take the reins, especially if the team needs a little bit of extra direction.
So, if a good team needs a good leader, what do you do if no one wants to take the lead?
That's a great question. I've seen this happen in multiple team settings. I have been in a group with no clear leader. We couldn't make decisions, and everyone was working toward different priorities.
That sounds a little chaotic.
It really was. Seeing the need for someone to rally the team, point us all in the same direction, and take some ownership of that chaos, I stepped up. I didn't impose my vision or start making demands. Instead, I listened, I guided the group, and I made sure everyone was aligned and supported.
How did that work out?
Well, it was, of course, challenging at first because there was so much disarray. But in the end, eventually everything clicked into place and we were able to work together much more effectively.
That's awesome. So let's break down the key things that make a good leader. First, a leader needs to envision the goal and communicate it clearly to the team.
Then they need to enlist help, making sure each team member's strengths are fully utilized.
A good leader embodies the team's vision, showing passion, enthusiasm, and commitment to the team's success.
Leaders also empower others by giving them the tools and decision-making ability and authority that they need to contribute meaningfully.
And they evaluate the team's progress, making sure the work stays on track and everyone feels supported.
Finally, leaders encourage their team. They lift others up, celebrate small wins, and keep morale high, especially when the team faces challenges.
So whether you're leading a group project in school or a team at work, these leadership qualities can be practiced and developed. Even if no one has been officially designated as the leader, you can step up and show leadership in your own way.
Right, you can be a leader in any situation by being proactive, communicating clearly, and supporting your teammates. Leadership is not about being in control. It's about creating a space where the whole team can succeed.
You might be wondering, in a discussion on teamwork and collaboration that sounds a lot like a face-to-face thing, whether anything we've talked about is applicable to remote teams. Well, it is. Everything we've shared can apply, but it's worth noting that remote teams bring their own set of challenges beyond those associated with working in a team in general. Our whole team here is remote, so if there's a challenge out there, we've probably encountered it.
That's right. We've had our fair share of them, but we've also learned from every one of them.
Absolutely. One of the biggest challenges is communication. Without face to face interaction, it's really easy for important details to get lost in translation.
Exactly. Things like tone and context are harder to convey in written communication. A simple message that might sound casual in person can come across as terse or unclear online. Now let's look at a funny example of how lost context completely changes the message. Here's a memo from the CEO to the manager. Today at 10 to 11, all staff should meet in the car park. This will be followed by a total eclipse of the sun, which will appear for 2 minutes. For a moderate cost, this will be made safe with goggles. The CEO will deliver a short speech beforehand to give us all some information. This is not something that can be seen every day.
That seems pretty clear. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, the manager sends that off to the department head, who sends it off to the floor manager, who sends one to the supervisor.
Okay, now this is starting to sound like a classic game of telephone.
Exactly. And by the time we get from the CEO down to the staff, we have this memo. Some staff will go to the car park today to see the CEO disappear. It's a pity this doesn't happen every day.
Wow, I can see how easily that message got lost in translation. What started as a simple announcement turned into something totally confusing.
This is why it's so important to keep communication clear and consistent when working remotely. Don't assume that everyone will get the same message in the same way. But how do we communicate, or how do we effectively confront this challenge?
One of the best ways to handle this is by over communicating, being extra clear in your emails, messages, and comments on shared documents. When possible, use video calls to add that personal touch and ensure that the message is understood. Video adds a level of context that just isn't present in writing.
And of course, pay attention to time zones. Our team here crosses 4 US time zones. It gets even more complicated if you're working with people across the world. Scheduling meetings that work for everyone can be a logistical nightmare.
That's true. You need to be mindful of everyone's time and flexibility. Sometimes that means adjusting your work hours slightly on certain days or setting a rotating meeting time so it's fair for all team members.
And in a traditional office, you have immediate accountability. You can often tell when someone is slacking off or when they need help, and they can tell the same about you. But remote teams don't have that visual cue.
Unfortunately, that can make it easy for people to slip through the cracks, or for a project to go off track without anyone noticing until it's too late.
Exactly. You can't rely on informal check-ins like you would in an office. That's why you need to build accountability into your remote team too. Remember earlier we mentioned using a project management tool like Asana or Trello and setting mini deadlines to stay on track. Those same principles can be used within your remote team.
And don't forget about regular formal check-ins. Even if your team works asynchronously, having a weekly meeting or sending status updates can help everyone stay on the same page. When you have to report on your progress, you are a lot more likely to be intentional about making some.
Is anyone else noticing just how much of remote teamwork and collaboration requires intentionality? Let's talk about one last teamwork challenge, especially for remote teams, where intentionality can make or break the experience.
That's right, connection. And no, not your internet connection, although that can certainly be a double-edged sword. I'm talking about the human connection. It's easy to get stuck in the grind of work and forget about the human element.
Remote teams often struggle with this because we don't have spontaneous interactions. There's no quick chat at the coffee machine or lunch break conversations to build relationships.
Exactly. That's why you need to make an intentional effort to connect with remote teammates outside of work tasks. One way to do that is through virtual coffee chats. Just set up a time to meet over Zoom or Google Meet and talk about anything other than work.
And for those of you who prefer more structured interactions, try virtual team building activities like trivia, online games, or even a virtual happy hour. These can help foster bonds and break up the routine.
Right. Don't underestimate the value of virtual socializing. But remember, you have to plan these activities. They're not going to happen spontaneously in a remote environment. So put them on the calendar in advance. We would love to thank you all for joining us today. We've sure enjoyed sharing with you our research and experiences in the area of teamwork and collaboration. We've looked at some objections you may have to it, the benefits to it, and strategies for effectively building our teamwork skills that we hope you can use in your future team endeavors.
With practice navigating teamwork, you'll hopefully develop skills that help set you apart, both in school and in your career.
Collaboration isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. Thanks again for joining us, and good luck with your next team project.
Back to you, Maxine.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that presentation. Now, before we do get to some questions, and I did see one come in, I did want to go over some last things. One, please do follow us on our social media. On here, you'll be able to see what other webinars we have coming up in the future. Additionally, not included here, but if you go to tutor.com/webinars, that will bring you to our webinar hub that lists every single one of our previous webinars that we've done across a whole range of different series. So I do highly recommend you take a look at that. And then last thing before we get to questions is some people were asking if there's going to be a recording of this sent out afterwards. And there is. You can expect to see that in the next couple of days. And it will also include a PDF version of this PowerPoint. So you'll have all of the information that you need as you start reviewing some of the content that we went over today. Now, when it comes to questions, we did get one question, and this kind of talks a little bit about what you were talking about, your experience, Jenna, where someone asks what should you do if you have a teammate that waits until the last day to submit their part of the project to the rest of the team, and it's obvious that they plagiarized it word for word or sourced it from AI. And in this scenario, kind of just this is a heavily involved project and there isn't a lot of time or there isn't enough time to redo that portion. Do you have any recommendations on how to possibly avoid scenarios like this before it gets this bad, or what to do once it reaches this point?
Yeah, I think what I spoke on earlier was kind of getting at there comes a time in a project when if your other teammates aren't carrying their share of the weight, there comes a time where you may need to step in just for the sake of getting the project done. I do think there are exceptions here with this question whenever there is an issue like plagiarism in AI, where you probably, my suggestion would be talk to whoever your team lead is, or if you're in school, your faculty member or teacher, and let them know kind of what's going on if you suspect that, just to help kind of protect yourself. And ensure that that's not going to fall back on you or any other team members in your group. I'm not sure if Sarah or Ariel have anything to add to that, but that would be my suggestion.
The only thing that I would add was something that we had talked about was kind of being able to recognize that point at which your teammate is not carrying their weight and recognizing when you need to step in and maybe do some of the work. So hopefully you never find yourself in this situation. I'll start with that. But hopefully, if you do find yourself in this situation, you can recognize it early enough that you can give yourself a little bit of time to do the work. Even if they submit it at the last minute, at least you might have something that you can put in there in its place if it's plagiarized. But I agree completely with Jenna to take that concern to whoever's in charge of the project or in charge of the class. If this is a school project, say, this is what happened, and so that they are aware, unaware that you're aware.
Awesome, thank you. We did get another question asking if a team member's idea is not chosen, how can a leader stop resentment from growing in the team?
That's a hard thing to tackle if there isn't respect and trust on the team to start with. If there is, this is going to be less likely to happen. But if there isn't that trust and respect, then it's going to be hard for someone to recognize that their idea not being chosen doesn't mean that their idea is bad or that the other idea is amazing. Like, you have to pick something to move forward with, right? I think that a good leader is, excuse me, a good leader is able to communicate that to the entire team and is able to lead compassionately so that it is not a judgment against the person that their idea was not chosen. It is just that that idea is not the one that's going to move forward. I think compassion is probably the most important part of that.
Awesome, thank you. It doesn't look like there are any other questions. I'll give it just a little bit more time in case anybody has any last minute questions. And again, you can drop those questions into the question box. And again, just for everybody's awareness, this will be sent out, a recording will be sent out in the next day or so. So you can always review some of the content that we went over, some of the resources that this amazing team has kind of put together, and kind of the answers to those two questions that we just went through. But yeah, it doesn't look like any other questions are coming in. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Oh, actually, just one last question did manage to sneak in, and that is, how can a leader not sound bossy when giving instructions?
I think there's two different scenarios here. One is where you are the leader by title or by election, and the other is you are the leader by default that we talked about, that nobody else wants to be the leader, so you've stepped up. I think when you are the leader by title or by decision, there's a certain level at which you can sound bossy and have it be accepted still. When you step into the role of leader because no one else does it, it's not because they want someone else to do it. They just don't want the responsibility. So they're maybe not as willing to hear what you have to say. But in either case, I still think, go back to the compassionate communication, because everyone who's on the team needs to feel like they are a part of the team, no matter what role is being assigned to them, what piece of the project they're doing, whether their decision is accepted or not. I think if you can build trust and respect with your team members, then your leadership is going to be more warmly accepted and not sound bossy. If you're doing it without compassion and you're just dictating, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you're making unilateral decisions, you're going to sound bossy.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think that concludes us for today. So thank you so much, Jenna, Sarah, and Ariel, for your time, for the presentation, and for your expertise when it comes to answering these questions. But thanks everybody for joining, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.